The Zodiac Killer. The first letter. It was August 1st, 1969. 3 letters arrived at 3 different newspapers in Northern California. Each one was hand-typed, signed with a strange symbol, a circle with a cross through it, what would later become infamous as the calling card of the Zodiac Killer. The letters were taunting. They claimed responsibility for the brutal killings of 2 teenagers near Vallejo. Each letter contained a third of a cipher, a cryptogram, 90 characters in total. The writer demanded the papers print them on their front pages, or more people would die. The first victims. On the night of December 20th, 1968, just a few days before Christmas, 2 high school students, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were parked on a lonely stretch of Lake Herman Road near Vallejo, California. It was a quiet, rural spot, a place for teenage sweethearts to talk, listen to music, maybe kiss. But that night, the silence was shattered by gunfire. Around 11:15 p.m., their lifeless bodies were discovered. Betty Lou had been shot 5 times in the back while trying to flee. David had been shot once in the head at close range. There was no robbery, no sexual assault, no witnesses, just 2 young lives ended, without warning, without a clear motive. At the time, police suspected a random act of violence. But months later, when the Zodiac sent his first letter claiming responsibility, everything changed. He wrote, "I killed those kids last Christmas," and he knew details only the killer would know. Lover's Lane Attack. Just 6 months after the Lake Herman Road murders, on the evening of July 4th, 1969, Independence Day, another young couple parked near Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Darlene Farron, 22, and Michael Magot, 19, were sitting in her car when a vehicle pulled up behind them. At first, they thought it was a police officer, but what happened next was far from law and order. A man stepped out of the car, flashlight in hand, and approached the driver's side. Without a word, he opened fire. 5 bullets tore through the car. Darlene was struck multiple times and would later die from her wounds. Michael, though gravely wounded, survived, becoming the first living witness to the Zodiac savagery. An hour later, the Vallejo Police Department received a call. A calm, male voice spoke clearly. "I want to report a double murder. If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." Then he hung up. The voice was chilling, flat, controlled, like he wasn't confessing to murder, but placing a food order. The Ciphers and the Code Breakers. Just 1 day after the Blue Rock Springs shooting, 3 newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received an envelope. Inside was a letter from the killer, filled with taunts, threats, and a demand: publish this cipher or more people would die. Each letter contained 1/3 of a 408-character cryptogram. The Zodiac claimed it would reveal his identity. "This is the Zodiac speaking," he wrote, using that phrase for the first time. "I like killing people because it is so much fun." The cipher appeared to be a random mess of letters and symbols, but a husband and wife team, Donald and Betty Harden, high school teachers from Salinas, sat down at their kitchen table and cracked it within days. The message didn't reveal a name. Instead, it was a disturbing monologue. "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest. Man is the most dangerous animal of all." There were misspellings. Deliberate or accidental, no one knows. But the tone? It was clear. The Zodiac didn't just want attention. He wanted fear. The Lake Berryessa attack. It was a warm September afternoon in 1969. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing on the shores of Lake Berryessa, a scenic escape northeast of Napa. They had laid out a blanket, enjoying the peaceful breeze, unaware that death was watching from the trees. Around 6:30 p.m., a man emerged from behind the brush. He wore a bizarre costume: black executioner's hood, sunglasses, and a bib-like chest piece emblazoned with a white cross circle. He held a gun and calmly said he was an escaped convict, that he only wanted money and a car. But it was a lie. He pulled out lengths of pre-cut rope, tied them both up, and then began to stab. 10 times. Cecilia screamed as Brian begged for him to stop. When it was over, the man simply walked back up the hill, slowly, then used a felt pen to draw the Zodiac symbol on Brian's car door. Beneath it, he wrote the dates of the previous killings, and added, Septa 27, 69, 6:30, by knife. Cecilia died 2 days later. Brian survived, and described everything. It was the Zodiac's most theatrical killing, and the most terrifying. He was no longer just a sniper in the dark. He was willing to get close. Very close. The Presidio Heights murder. October 11th, 1969. It was just another Saturday night in San Francisco. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a fare in Union Square. The man wanted to go to Presidio Heights, a quiet, upper-class neighborhood. What happened next would mark the Zodiac's boldest act yet. At the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets, the man pulled a gun and shot Paul in the head. Then, cool as ice, he reached over the front seat, took Paul's wallet, tore off a piece of his bloody shirt, and casually wiped down the cab. 3 teenagers across the street saw it all and immediately called police. But there was a mistake. The dispatcher described the suspect as a black male. So when officers passed a white man walking nearby, calm, clean, and alone, they didn't stop him. That man, very likely, the Zodiac Killer. Days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received another letter. Inside was a scrap of Paul Stein's bloody shirt. This wasn't speculation anymore. It was proof. The Zodiac had now killed in the heart of a city, escaped police within blocks, and had the audacity to send souvenirs. He taunted police in the letter. School children make nice targets. I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. It wasn't just murder anymore. It was terror. Taunts, threats, and letters from the shadows. For the next few years, the Zodiac kept writing, letter after letter, mocking the police, challenging the press, bragging about murders, some confirmed, some questionable. He mailed another piece of Paul Stein's shirt, just to prove he wasn't bluffing. He threatened to blow up school buses. He drew diagrams of bombs, claimed he had a kill count of 37, and said the police would never catch him. The handwriting was always the same, jagged, uneven, and almost childlike. He signed each letter with the circle and cross symbol, sometimes with a scorecard. Me equal 10, SFPD x 0. The public was terrified. The media fed the frenzy, and the police were overwhelmed. Hundreds of suspects were interviewed. Thousands of tips were chased. But the Zodiac stayed one step ahead, always watching, always writing. One of his letters even included a cryptic warning. I am waiting for a good movie about me. Who will play me? I am now in control of all things. He was obsessed with attention, fascinated by fear, and terrifyingly calm about it all. But then, the letters stopped. The 340 Cipher and the Silence. On November 8, 1969, just weeks after the Presidio Heights murder, the Zodiac sent a card to the San Francisco Chronicle. Inside was a new cryptogram. This one was longer, denser, 340 characters of symbols and letters. No key, no clue. For over 50 years, it remained unsolved. Amateur sleuths, cryptographers, and even the FBI tried and failed. Many believed it held the killer's identity. Others thought it was a prank, a dead end. But in December 2020, a team of 3 codebreakers, David Orenchak, Jarl Van Eyck, and Sam Blake, finally cracked it. The message? More madness. I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because I now have enough slaves to work for me. It didn't include a name, no definitive clue to his identity, just more cold-blooded taunting, more ego, more shadows. And then, he vanished. No more confirmed murders, no more proven letters. The Zodiac faded into myth. Suspects, theories, and obsessions. For decades, police, journalists, and amateur sleuths have hunted the Zodiac in the shadows of dead ends and false hopes. One name stands out: Arthur Lee Allen. He was a convicted child molester, owned a Zodiac brand watch with the killer's symbol, knew cryptography, lived near the crime scenes, and once told a friend he wanted to hunt people. But there was no physical evidence. His fingerprints didn't match. His DNA didn't match. And in 1992, he died, leaving behind more questions than answers. Others pointed fingers at men like Lawrence Kane, a mentally unstable man with ties to the victims, or Rick Marshall, a projectionist obsessed with codes, or even Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber himself. None confirmed, no charges, no closure. Then came the internet, a flood of theories, documentaries, and YouTube sleuths, Reddit threads dissecting every misspelled word, Netflix series reviving the public's obsession, AI recreations of his voice, even facial composites from amateur artists. And yet, nothing conclusive. It's as if the Zodiac knew how to stay just out of reach. Not because he was brilliant, but because he knew the system wasn't built to catch someone like him. A ghost with a pen. A killer who wanted to be a legend. And in a way, he succeeded. Legacy of Fear. More than half a century later, The name Zodiac still sends a chill down the spine. He wasn't the most prolific serial killer, but he may have been the most infamous. His crimes spawned countless books, podcasts, movies. David Fincher's Zodiac in 2007 reignited global fascination. His cryptic style reshaped how the public viewed serial killers. And his refusal to be caught? That's what haunts us most. Because we fear what we can't name. We fear what we can't understand. And the Zodiac was both. To this day, the case remains officially unsolved. Files still sit on desks in San Francisco and Napa. New DNA techniques offer hope, but time erases more than just fingerprints. Witnesses are gone. Memories fade. And yet, every so often, a new theory appears, a new message, a new flicker of curiosity in the dark. The Zodiac is more than a man now. He's a symbol of fear, of mystery, of the deep and unsettling truth that sometimes evil doesn't wear a face. It wears a question mark. And until that question is answered, the Zodiac will never really be gone.
Subscribe for more chilling mysteries. Thanks for being here. See you in the next time.